October 2018, 11. 1. Choose any two of the following passages from the Quran, and A. Briefly describe the main themes in each passage. 4. B. Briefly explain the importance of these themes in a Muslim's life today. 4. ANS. A. Themes. 1. Surah 114. This is the last surah of the Quran revealed together with Surah 113. Both are called Al-Mu'awwizatan, the two protectors. Some traditions declare them to be the Makkan surahs, but relatively stronger sources prove them to be Madniyan. Both teach Muslims not to have any fears of the supernatural and the unknown, the internal and external evils that may affect them. Surah 113 mentions God's protection from the visible evils. This surah, on the other hand, reassures Muslims of God's powers to protect them against the invisible or internal evil forces. Repetition of God's attributes in the first 3 verses implies God's special bond with humans. The remaining verses warn against Satan and mention his method of enticing humans. For this reason, the Quran repeatedly declares, "Verily Satan is an avowed enemy to man." 12:5, Yusuf. 2, 5:110. This surah was revealed in Medina with many subject matters including the interfaith dialogues. This verse presents the conversation between God and Jesus Christ on the Day of Judgment. God's address to Jesus confirms his prophethood and negates the corrupted belief of making him Son of God. God reminds Jesus his special favors on him and granting him miraculous powers. The purpose of reminding is to make him grateful to God. Miraculous birth of Jesus without involving a father, his ability to cure the blind and the leper, giving life to the dead and the lifeless objects, and finally God protecting him from crucifixion are mentioned to prove that Jesus was a servant of God, and by no means his son. The verse also outlines the granting of divine knowledge and wisdom to Jesus. There is repetition of "by my leave" in the verse as it refers to God's unusual powers and his will to grant prophetic signs to his chosen men. 3. Surah 108. Theme of this surah is God's special love and care for the Holy Prophet. This is the shortest surah revealed in the early Makkan period. The Prophet was mocked by the Makkans on the death of his second son, Abdullah from Hazrat Khadijah. On hearing this, his uncle Abu Lahab came out of his house saying, "Batara Muhammadan," that means Muhammad has been cut off, of future hope. Other pagans also began to mock him. The Prophet then received this surah that gave him the glad tiding of their abundance. The word abundance carries multiple meanings that include the moral qualities of the Prophet, his followers, the prophethood, the Quran, his knowledge and wisdom. It also refers to a specially blessed river in paradise that he had seen in his Miraj journey. He, and by his way all Muslims, were asked to establish regular prayer and to develop the spirit of sacrifice so that he could continuously strengthen his bond with God and to get constant divine support. The last verse promised destruction of the Prophet's enemies who are no more remembered in a good way. B. Importance of themes. 1. Surah 114. This first word, Qul say, requires Muslims to be obedient to God as that is the only way to seek his refuge against evil. A genuine obedience removes any arrogance towards God or a false belief of having control over their destinies. Once, the Prophet was riding a mule along with a companion. When the mule stumbled, the companion said, "May Satan perish." The Prophet said, "Do not say that. It encourages Satan," and he says, "I knocked with my strength. But if you say, in the name of God, Satan is dwarfed and becomes like a fly." This means the remembrance of God guarantees defeat of Satan. The surah tells Muslims to beware of Satan injecting evil thoughts in their hearts. Therefore, they follow the Prophet's tradition by reciting the last 2 surahs regularly before going to bed. Regular recitation of the last 2 surahs acts as an antidote against all satanic forces however stronger they might be. This is because of the fact that God has ultimate control over all forces. 2. 5:110. This verse shows God's powers, his love and care for his messengers as well as other humans. The special blessings of God on Jesus Christ prove his strong relationship with his chosen men, who in turn became a source of guidance for their communities. He gave the book and the wisdom to Jesus as he gave the same to other messengers so that they could tell their people their purpose of living. The Quran reminds Muslims that all such unusual powers and miraculous happenings are under God's will, and whatever of blessings and good things you have, it is from God. 1653, Al-Nahl, his miraculous powers to cure the disabled people show how much God is concerned about his servants. God granted health, knowledge, wisdom and a healthy family life to humans. So, they need to acknowledge all these bounties by expressing gratitude to him. This will keep them on the path of obedience to God and earning his pleasure. 3. Surah 108. This passage, like Surah 93, teaches Muslims to have faith in God's support that surely reaches the noble people. The Holy Prophet was assured of abundance in the face of persecutions in Makkah. Muslims need to remember this surah in times of difficulties. They should not worry about their losses but instead should focus on whatever God has given them. God's greatest blessing on Muslims is that they are the Ummah community of the last messenger of God who was given the last divine book, the Quran. They should be thankful to him for this great favor. They should try to comprehend and follow the teachings of Quran in order to avail the abundance of its spiritual and moral benefits. They should remember God in all circumstances. The best way of remembering him is regular prayer as commanded by the Quran, and establish regular prayer in order to remember me. 2014, Toha. The surah teaches Muslims to be ready for any type of sacrifice that too brings them closer to God. 2a. Write an account of the different ways in which revelations came to the Prophet. Include examples in your answer. 10. B. Muslims around the world recite the Quran in Arabic even though they might not understand the meaning. What do you think are the benefits of this? 4. A. The Quran was revealed in parts to the Prophet, from 610 to 632 AD, over a period of 22 years, 6 months and 14 days. The first revelation, first 5 verses of Surah 96, Al-Alaq, was sent in Ramadan 610 AD, in the cave Hira. After this the revelation stopped for a period of about 6 months. The Prophet felt quite restless during this interval, Fatra al-Wahi, till Angel Jibreel brought the second revelation, 74:1-7, Al-Mudaththir, that commanded him to start his prophetic mission. Then again there was a bit longer gap during which the Makkans ridiculed him by saying that his Lord had abandoned him. The Prophet then received Surah 93, Al-Duha, that contained reassurance by God. After this, he received revelations in relatively quick succession. They included divine commands of preaching Islam to his relatives, 26:214, Al-Shu'ara. Then came the revelation about inviting the Makkans publicly, and expound openly by what you have been commanded. (15:94), Al-Hijjah, he would often receive revelation without a warning while he was busy in addressing his companions. The Quran refers to this as, "Surely, it is for us to have you commit it to in your memory and recite it. And so when we recite it, follow its recitation attentively. Then it will be for us to explain it." 75:16-19, Al-Qiyamah, however, he also received revelations in special circumstances. Asbabu el-Nuzul or context Surah 112, Al-Ikhlas, was revealed in response to the Makkan queries about the nature and origin of God. Similarly, Surah 18, Al-Kahf, was revealed when the Prophet was questioned about the people of the cave. Surahs 53, Al-Najm, and 94, Al-Inshra, were revealed to console the Prophet in difficult times. After his migration to Medina, he received revelations about the pillars of Islam and social conduct of the Muslim community. Surahs 2, Al-Baqarah, 3, Al-Imran, 4, Al-Nisa, and 5, Al-Ma'idah, contain most of these details. God sent revelations regarding family laws, crime and punishment, haram and halal foods and interaction with non-Muslims, including verses about jihad qaital. Receiving the revelation was usually a hard experience for the Prophet. Usually, Angel Jibreel appeared in the form of a companion, Dihya al-Kalbi, whom many other companions were able to identify. According to Sun Nazai, this was the easiest and most painless way of revelation. Only occasionally, the Prophet encountered Jibreel in his true form. For example, while returning from the cave Hira, he saw Hazrat Jibreel with his wings covering the entire horizon. During his journey of Miraj, he saw the angel again as mentioned in the Quran, while he was at the highest horizon. Then he came near and hovered around. He was within 2 bows length or closer. He saw him on another descent. At the lotus tree of the extremity. 53:7-9, 13-14, Al-Najm. During the same journey, God revealed to him the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah as one of his gifts for the Prophet. The Prophet is reported to have received revelation in dreams, Ruya al-Siddiqa. These dreams always came to be true afterwards. An example of this is the Prophet's dream of entering the sacred mosque in 6 the year he signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. About this the Quran testified. Hazrat Aisha said, "The Prophet did not see any vision, but it came like the bright gleam of dawn." Sahihain. Moreover, the revelations were directly blown into his heart as stated in a hadith, Ruhul Quds blew the following into my heart, no soul will die before consuming his sustenance. Finally, Hazrat Jibreel often brought revelation without being seen by the Prophet. In this mode of receiving revelation, the Prophet would hear the sound of ringing of bells. This was the hardest way of coming of revelation, as stated by the Prophet, it sometimes came with a sound like the sound of a bell. That is the hardest one to me. Sahih Bukhari, during such episodes there was an unusual increase in the body weight of the Prophet. His camel, Kaswa, could be seen to be collapsing if he received revelation while riding it. Hazrat Zayd bin Thabit reported that once he and the Prophet were asleep in the Prophet's mosque. The Prophet was resting his leg on Zayd's thigh. After a while, Hazrat Zayd suddenly woke up as he felt his thigh bone was about to crack because the Prophet was receiving revelation at that time. The Prophet was often seen sweating in winters and shivering in summers while revelation came to him by this way. B. The Holy Quran is a book of recitation and guidance simultaneously. The art of its recitation is called tajweed. God grants reward for reciting each single letter of the Quran. Recitation of the Quran creates a sense of spiritual purity both for the reader and the listener. It is stated in the Quran, so when the Quran is recited, listen carefully to it, and keep silent so that you may be shown mercy. 7:204, Al-Araf. Thus it is a kind of remembering God, and strengthening faith. According to a hadith, the Quran will protect its reader in the hereafter. A Hafiz memorizer of the Quran is guaranteed similar rewards in the hereafter. Memorizing such a voluminous book word for word is also a means of sharpening one's memory. This will help a Hafiz to excel in studies, too. 3a. The Prophet had different experiences in the caves of Hira and Thor. Give an account of his experiences in both caves. 10b. How did the events in the cave of Thor help strengthen the Prophet's relationship with God? 4a. There were 2 major experiences the Holy Prophet had in his life. Firstly, the awarding of prophethood in the cave of Hira in 610 AD, and secondly, his stay in the cave of Thor in 622 AD during his emigration to Medina. As he approached 40, the Prophet began to isolate himself from the social life of Mecca. He would spend long time in the cave of Hira, in the Mount of Light or Jabal al-Nur, in the outskirts of Mecca, meditating about his relationship with God. It was during such meditations that Jibreel appeared before him in a night of Ramadan. He commanded him to recite. The Holy Prophet replied that he could not read. Jibreel pressed him so hard that he could not bear it. This happened twice, and on his third command, the Prophet replied, "What shall I read?" Jibreel squeezed him for the third time, and recited, "Read in the name of your Lord who created man out of a clot of congealed blood. Read, and your Lord is most bountiful. He who taught the use of the pen, taught that which he knew not." Al-Alaq, 96:1-5. It further confirms that it happened in one of the nights of this holy month. We have indeed revealed this in the night of power, Al-Qajr, 97:1. Hazrat Jibrail's special might and power was demonstrated so that he could tell the Prophet about the fact that the message had been sent by one supreme God who is all-powerful. The Prophet recovered from this shocking experience and felt as though the words of the revelation were indelibly imprinted on his mind. He made his way to his home and heard a voice from the heavens. When he was midway on the mountain, he heard a voice from heaven saying, "O Muhammad, you are the apostle of God and I am Gabriel Jibrail." He raised my head towards heaven and saw Gabriel in the form a man with his feet astride the horizon and his wings spread to the extent of my sight. The Prophet finally reached home and, after narrating the whole experience, he asked his wife to wrap him in a cloak as he was trembling with cold. He further said, "I fear something may happen to me." Hazrat Khadija replied, "Never. By God, God will never disgrace you. You keep good relations with your kith and kin, help the poor and the destitute, serve your guests generously and assist the deserving calamity-afflicted ones." The Prophet had been divinely informed of this nefarious plan. Remember how the unbelievers plotted against you, to keep you in bonds, or slay you or get you out of your home. They plot and God also plans, but the best of planners is God. 8:30, Al-Anfal. He instructed Hazrat Ali to sleep in his bed as a decoy, and return all the belongings of the Quraysh. At night he left for Hazrat Abu Bakr's house. The Prophet and Hazrat Abu Bakr left for a cave in Mount Thor, 5 miles south of Makkah city. Hazrat Abu Bakr's son, Abdullah, and his freed slave, Amir bin Fuhaira, followed them with a flock of sheep to cover up their tracks. Hazrat Abu Bakr entered the cave to clean it and to plug the holes through which some poisonous insect could harm them. Abdullah bin Abu Bakr returned with his sister Asma the next night. They brought some food for them and informed them about the Makkans who had started searching for both the men. They had announced a reward of 100 camels for capturing the Prophet. Both spent 3 days and nights, while the Makkans searched for them. While searching them, a band of Makkans reached almost so close to them that their discovery seemed inevitable. Hazrat Abu Bakr became worried, but the Holy Prophet assured him that God was with them. The Quran mentions this as, "Do not be aggrieved, for verily God is with us." 9:40, Al-Tawbah. The band of 5 or 6 Makkans surveyed the cave and decided to go back. The Prophet and Hazrat Abu Bakr then went to the mouth of the cave. To their surprise, they saw an acacia tree which was not there before. Where there was a gap, it was covered by a spiderweb, and a dove had made a nest and was sitting close by. This divine intervention had fooled the Makkans. The same night Hazrat Abu Bakr's children again brought some food and a Bedouin guide, Abdullah bin Urakit. B. The Prophet's miraculous stay for 3 days, and successful departure for Medina greatly strengthened his relationship with God. His consolation to Hazrat Abu Bakr on the arrival of the Makkans reflect his staunch faith in God, and he, the Prophet, said to his companion, "Have no fear for God is with us." 9 hours 60 minutes, Al-Anfal. The subsequent events involving divine intervention further strengthened the Prophet's faith in God. When he and Hazrat Abu Bakr came out of the cave, they were surprised to see the spider web with a dove on the mouth of the cave. God had made these arrangements to keep his enemies from entering the cave and capturing him. The Prophet realized that God would keep helping him in future, too. The dedication and services of Hazrat Abu Bakr convinced the Prophet that God was generous enough to have granted him such a sincere supporter. 4a. The Prophet Muhammad brought the message of Islam to Makkah. Describe the ways the main clans treated him after hearing his message. 10. B. Why did the Quraysh fear the Prophet and his message even though he was not violent or aggressive towards them? 4. A. The Holy Prophet began to preach openly after receiving the divine command, then declare openly what you are commanded and turn away from the polytheists. 15 hours 94 minutes, Al-Hijr. He was outrightly rejected by the Quraysh when he addressed them from the Safa hill in Makkah. His uncle Abu Lahab cursed him. Later, the Quran cursed him in Surah 111, Al-Lahab, and his other kinsmen, too, turned against him as did the Quraysh in general. He was subjected to humiliation, torture, and disgrace. Thorny bushes were spread in his way, insulting titles were hurled against him, and he was physically attacked even when he was busy in prayer. The Makkans approached his uncle, Abu Talib, and asked him to keep his nephew from preaching the new faith. Abu Talib was the source of tribal protection for the Prophet, but he was strongly impressed by the firm stance taken by the Prophet about his divinely ordained mission. There are many stories about the ways the Prophet was persecuted in Mecca. Once, he was offering prayer in the Haram, when Abu Jahl said to other chiefs, "I wish someone could fetch the bowels of a camel with all the filthy mass and fling it over Muhammad." Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt quickly brought the garbage and flung it over the neck of the Prophet. Other pagans danced in glee, jostling and pushing one another. Someone informed Fatima, who was just 5 or 6 by then. She ran up to the Haram, removed the filth and rebuked Uqba and other insulters. On another occasion, when the Prophet was busy in offering prayer, Uqba roped his neck with a sheet of cloth and pulled at it. Abu Bakr happened to come in and he freed the Prophet from Uqba's grasp. Then he said to Uqba, "You kill a man who merely says that God is one." The pagans, in turn, pulled Abu Bakr by his hair to quench their thirst of opposing Islam. Other leaders who participated in the ugly mission of torturing the Prophet were Umayyah bin Khalaf, Utbba, Walid bin Mughira, Nader Harith, As bin W. Illinois. As he went about, the urchins of the town followed him in groups. Whenever he recited the Quran loudly, they abused the Quran, God, and the Prophet. He was given various insulting titles such as a magician, poet, and a man possessed by spirits. Whenever he addressed an audience in public, Abu Lahab would simultaneously interrupt his speech. Once, when the Prophet visited the fair of Dulmajaz and addressed the crowd by saying, "There is no God but Allah," Abu Jahl quickly threw dust over him and said, "Do not be misled, he wants you to give up worshipping Lat and Uzza." He was called Al-Abtar, man without progeny, on the death of his sons from Khadijah. Abu Lahab's wife, Jamil, used to throw garbage on him whenever he offered prayer at his house. She also mocked him when there was an unusual delay in receiving revelation. It was before the revelation of Surah 93, Al-Duha, when she declared that Satan had stopped sending revelations on the Prophet. She and Abu Lahab dissolved the betrothal of their sons, Utbah and Utaiba, with Muhammad's daughters, Ruqayya and Kulthum. Leaders of the Quraysh had secret meetings several times to devise an effective strategy to dissuade the Prophet from preaching Islam. They collectively decided to bribe the Prophet and sent Utbba bin Rabi'a as their representative to him. He offered the Prophet fabulous wealth, chieftainship of Makkah and marriage with the most beautiful girl in Makkah. The Prophet rejected all offers, and Utbba went back in dismay. The Makkan chiefs also suggested that he should worship their gods for a year, and they will worship his God for a year in return. The Prophet then received Surah 110, Al-Kafirun, that declares, "For you your religion, for me mine." Finally, they decided to impose a general social boycott on Banu Hashim, Prophet's clan. Details of the boycott were written and hung on the gate of the Kaaba. Abu Talib took all his family, except Abu Lahab, to his abandoned property, Shurib Abi Talib, Gorge of Abi Talib, for 3 years. At the end of the boycott in 619 AD, Prophet suffered great losses. Abu Talib and Khadijah were a source consolation and emotional support for him. The Prophet, driven by grief, declared 619 AD as the year of sorrow. He found it difficult to spread Islam in Mecca after 619 AD. So, he visited Taif in 620 AD and tried to preach to Bani Taqif of Taif, but these people proved even more hostile and the Prophet left the town with an injured body and a heavy heart. His difficulties would not end before his migration to Medina. B. The priest community of Mecca had multiple fears due to growth of Islam. They feared the loss of income that they generated from the idol worship. Trade fairs, like the Fair of Ukkas, brought them huge income. Moreover, being the custodian of the Kaaba, they also got income from various offerings dedicated to 360 idols placed there. Islamic teachings of Tawhid, if became popular, was a threat to their income. They believed those idols were a means of bringing them closer to one God. "We only adore them, idols, in order that they may bring us nearer to God." 39:3, Al-Zumar. In the rise of the Prophet, they could see their doomed future by losing their monopoly and dominance on the Makkan politics. They could observe the growing popularity of the Prophet as a thoroughly honest and truthful man who believed in social equality. He had a strong following with many rich and famous followers. 5a. Two of the Prophet's wives were Aisha and Hafsa. Write an account of their lives during the lifetime of the Prophet. 10b. Both wives were narrators of hadith. What can Muslims learn from this about women and education? 4. Ans. A. Hazrat Aisha bint Abu Bakr. Hazrat Aisha, R.A., daughter of Hazrat Abu Bakr, R.A., was married to the Prophet at a very young age. She was the only virgin wife of the Prophet getting married when she was hardly 10 years old. However, their marital relations were established only after she had attained puberty in Medina. In 624 AD, she began to live in the Prophet's house, where he would sometimes give her company while she was playing with her toys. Hazrat Aisha, R.A., had a good influence on the Prophet, who had been sad after the loss of his most favorite wife, Hazrat Khadija, R.A. Eventually, Hazrat Aisha, R.A., began to surpass the other wives in terms of closeness to the Prophet. According to traditions, second wife of the Prophet, Hazrat Sauda bint Zamir R.A., had sacrificed her share of time for Hazrat Aisha, R.A., after the Prophet began to divide time equally for his wives. Hazrat Aisha, R.A., was scandalized by the leader of the hypocrites, Abdullah bin Ubay. Once she was with the Prophet on an expedition and got lost when she was busy in search of her lost necklace. She was escorted to Medina by a handsome young man who had accidentally spotted her while she sat with a worried look in the desert. The incident was exaggerated by Abdullah bin Ubay, who sowed seeds of doubts in the Prophet's mind. However, there was no evidence against Hazrat Aisha's R.A. conduct. Finally, divine intervention resolved the issue in her favor when the Prophet received verses related to slander, libel, false accusation of adultery against an innocent woman, of Surah 24, Al-Nur. Those who brought forward the lie are a body, hypocrites, among yourselves. Think it not to be an evil to you, on the contrary it is good for you. To every man among them will come punishment of the sin that he earned, and to him who took on himself the lead among them will be a chastisement grievous. 24:11-12, Al-Nur. These verses defend innocence of Hazrat Aisha, R.A., and condemn the practice of leveling false accusations. According to various historians, some other Quranic verses are also associated with Hazrat Aisha, R.A. They include the verse about tayammum or dry ablution that says, "And if you find no water, then take for yourselves clean sand, and with it rub your face and hands." 443, Al-Nisa. Instructions regarding the start of menstruation during the Hajj rituals are also linked with Hazrat Aisha, R.A. Hazrat Aisha, R.A., having a very sharp memory and a keen interest in learning, learned a great deal of teachings from the Prophet. She reported 2,210 traditions, ahadith, and is counted among the Mukathirin, reporters of several hundred traditions. She also bore hardships of hunger along with other wives of the Prophet as he lived a life of austerity and sacrifice for others. During the last days of his life, the Prophet sought consent of other wives, and shifted to Hazrat Aisha's R.A. apartment and finally, breathed his last in her arms. Hazrat Aisha, R.A., was just 18 when she became a widow. Hazrat Aisha, R.A., spent 48 years of her life as widow and remained dedicated to learning about the Quran, Hadith, and legal matters. She had memorized 2,210 traditions and thus became an authority on matters of Islamic legal thinking, especially those related to women and purity. Prominent companions used to consult her on various difficult issues. Musa bin Talha is reported to have remarked on her exceptional knowledge in these words, "I have not seen anyone more eloquent than Aisha." Jami Tirmidhi. Even such muhaddithin as Hazrat Abu Huraira, Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar and Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas sought her opinion on problems related to fiqh, law. Hazrat Hafsa bint Umar. She was the daughter of Hazrat Umar, R.A., the second rightly guided caliph. She was first married to Kunais bin Hudayfa and both were among the early converts to Islam. Suffering persecutions at the hands of Quraysh, both migrated to Abyssinia. However, feeling strong nostalgia, her husband soon brought her back to Mecca. She turned widow at a young age when Kunais was martyred in the Battle of Badr. Hazrat Umar was quite worried about her future. First he requested Hazrat Uthman, who had just lost his wife Hazrat Ruqayya bint Muhammad, Pbuh, and then he requested Hazrat Abu Bakr to marry her, but both declined the proposal. He then approached the Prophet, who said, "Do not worry, Hafsa will have a better husband than Uthman, and Uthman will have a better wife than Hafsa." The Prophet had been successfully unifying several tribes of Arabia with a view to developing the Islamic concept of brotherhood and nationalism. Accordingly, he married Hazrat Hafsa, R.A., in 625 AD in order to strengthen his ties with Hazrat Umar, R.A., and his tribe, Banu Adi. She too became a loyal and dedicated wife of the Prophet and began to excel in matters of learning. Her knowledge about various matters is ranked second only to that of Hazrat Aisha, R.A., though she narrated only about 60 traditions ahadith. She spent most of her time in reading, writing, and learning. This made her a close friend of Hazrat Aisha, R.A. She, too, like Hazrat Aisha, R.A., learned a great deal from the enlightening company of her husband. She was quite strict in prayer, fasting, and similar observances. Hazrat Aisha once said, "Among the wives of the Prophet only Hafsa used to come forward and compete with me." B. Islam does not discriminate between men and women regarding education. The Prophet emphatically instructed, "To acquire knowledge is the duty of every Muslim man and Muslim woman." Both Hazrat Aisha and Hafsa not only learned from the Prophet, they also taught others, men and women. Prominent companions used to consult Hazrat Aisha for complex legal matters. Muslim women in modern times should not hesitate in acquiring knowledge from scholarly men. They should then continue the noble mission of transferring the knowledge to those who need it. In most of the primary schools, women prove better teachers for the toddlers and young students in elementary classes. They should not hesitate in learning from male teachers for their higher or professional education. Similarly, they should offer their teaching services for male students of higher education classes following the tradition of Hazrat Aisha. May 2019, 20:58-11. 1. Choose any two of the following passages from the Quran, and a. Briefly explain the main themes in each passage. 4. b. Briefly explain the importance of these themes in a Muslim's life today. 4. ANS, A. Themes. 1. 2:255. Theme of this long verse of a Medinian surah, Al-Baqarah, is Tawhid. It outlines God's inimitable attributes that distinguish him from his creatures. The words Al-Hayyu Al-Qayyum, the ever-living and self-subsisting, refer to his creative and sustaining force behind his